Council's website. Could I ask IT colleagues to please start the recording? Okay. Before I begin today, I'd just like to welcome Councillor Jim Kyle onto the committee. Welcome, Jim. You can ask Cheryl to please call for the sediment and intimate any apologies.
Thanks, Chair. Morning, members. I'll just run through the statement if you can indicate your attendance, please. Councillor Graham Barton.
Here, thanks, Cheryl.
Councillor John McGee.
Yep.
Councillor Ellen Friel.
I'm here, Cheryl, thanks.
Councillor Elaine Cowan.
Here.
Councillor Jim Kyle.
Yep.
Councillor Peter Mabin.
Present. Thank you.
Councillor Claire Maitland.
Here.
Councillor Linda Mabin.
Here, Cheryl, thank you.
Councillor William Lennox.
Morning here.
Councillor Billy Crawford.
Apologies for Billy.
Great, thank you. Councillor Neil Watts.
Hey, Cheryl.
Councillor Drew Filson.
Yep.
Councillor Jennifer Hogg.
I'm here, thanks.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Cheryl. Members are going to move on to item 1 on the agenda, and that is declarations of interest. Councillor Maitland.
For transparency, I am the chair of the East Ayrshire Leisure Trust. However, it's a non-financial interest. Thank you.
That's in relation to item 3 on the agenda. Yep. Thank you.
I'm declaring an interest as well. Chief Officer of East Ayrshire Leisure is my daughter.
And that's in respect to item 3 as well. Yeah, thank you.
Through you, Chair, in respect to both those, in the interest of transparency kind of declarations, I'm assuming from both members that they're able to deal with this in the merits.
Thanks, Craig. I don't see anybody further online or in the room. So I'm going to move on to item 2 on the agenda, and that's a hearing procedure. Members, we don't have a hearing this morning, so we don't need to go through that procedure. Cheryl, thanks very much. So I'm going to move directly on to item 3 on the agenda. Oh, sorry, Councillor Mabin, never seen you online now.
Thanks, Chair. Just the same as Councillor Maitland, and in relation to being a trustee with the East Ayrshire Leisure Trust. For item 3, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members are going to move on to item 3 on the agenda, and that is planning application number 24/0426/PP. That's part demolition, erection of front foyer extension, rear extension, and fly tower. External alterations to include stone repair, replacement and refurbishment of windows and doors, reopening of windows, roof repairs and associated works, and planning application number 24/0428/LB. Again, part demolition, erection of front foyer extension, rear extension, and fly tower. Internal alterations and external alterations to include stone repair, replacement and refurbishment of windows and doors, reopening of windows, roof repairs and associated works at the Palace Theatre, 9 Green Street, Kilmarnock, East Ayrshire, KA13BN by East Ayrshire Council. I'm going to hand over to Fiona Finlay to take us through that presentation.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, everybody. Today, members, you are considering the proposals to the Palace Theatre. We have 2 applications before you. One is a planning application for planning permission, and one is an application for listed building consent. Both applications relate to the same development project, but are determined in their own right. Proposals relate to a comprehensive refurbishment, front and rear extensions to the Palace Theatre. Members have had the opportunity to attend a site visit earlier this week and have reviewed the plans, external finishes and the site in general. The Palace Theatre is an A-listed building, which is a landmark building within the town, and it's located at the very edge of the town centre of Kilmarnock. Full details of the site, its location and the proposals are outlined in your report, starting at paragraph 8. The description of the development, members, gives you quite a detailed outline of the proposal, so I'm not going to run through anything in too much detail there. I'm going to turn to the screens in front of you, and we'll just run through some visualisations and some site photographs. After I've done the site photographs and screens, Cheryl has a quick flyover video for you that was prepared by the applicants as well. Okay, so moving on to the first slide here, members, this is the Kilmarnock plan from the East Ayrshire Local Development Plan 2. You can see just within the red circle, the area of blue dashing, that just indicates the Palace Theatre within that area, and that is the edge of centre town boundary for Kilmarnock Town Centre. You can see the solid line is the actual town centre boundary, and the extended dashed line is the town centre boundary, is the edge of centre. I've just put this plan up, members, because obviously the application is part of the Cultural Kilmarnock project, and you can just see the Palace Theatre located there, links to Centre Stage, links to the Dick Institute, and you can see the links in there to the town centre and the Infinity Loop as well. And you can see the frontage and the little foyer extension indicated in green. This is the location plan that the applicants have given us. You can see Sturrock Street just running along to the west of the application site. You can see the Kilmarnock Water to the east and to the south. Then we continue down towards the Salvation Army building and other buildings within the town centre and at the edge. And over to the east, you can see the former Kilmarnock Academy that's now Centre Stage, Academy Apartments and the Dick Institute, etc., leading over towards London Road. This is just the existing site plan, members, that you can see in a little bit of detail, the sort of amalgamation of the town centre and the Grand Hall as it's developed over the years. The difference with this Met plan, members, is that you can now just see the front foyer extension and the rear extensions with the fly tower rigging system in place, and this is what we're here to look at today. Here's your first visualisation, members, and this shows you the front extension as it wraps around the two principal elevations at London Road and Sturrock Street. You can see the ground floor detailing there, members, with the display panel boards, the entrance foyer extension there, and obviously there'll be reworks, refurbishment works throughout the remainder of the building, as is titled within your report. Again, just another perspective, a wee bit more turning round onto London Road for you, members. Again, just coming down London Road towards the junction, you can see how the extension starts to come out from the building and come out towards the foyer as the junction comes round, as you come to meet the junction at London Road and Sturrock Street. This is looking back up Sturrock Street, members, more to the back of house extensions that are proposed, and you'll see up here is the detailing for the rigging system and the cladding on that part of the building there, and you'll see the rest of the extension is in brick. Again, members, the section detail of you to show the rigging system primarily. You can see the palace in terms of the theatre itself in there, and you can see the fly tower with the which and the height of the fly tower is dictated by the theatrical rigging system. An interior shot, members, here, visualisation to show you how the applicants intend to retain the existing frontage within the foyer extension as well. And I think on site, members, it was clarified for you that the cornicing as much as possible is to be hidden and retained. And I think drawings were showing to you of the sections of that as well on site. Just another internal shot, members, just to show you the sort of internal use that's anticipated. A couple of photographs, members. I've not got too many photographs here for you. So you've got the main image as you come down from the viaduct. Just at the junction with London Road, you can see the state of the stonework. You can see the windows. You can see the Albert Tower, the lead work at the top of the tower. You can see the stone cleaning that will be required, etc., to bring the building back. You can see some elements of the rear extensions there as well, members. And that's obviously the perspective from Sturrock Street. I'm going to stop sharing, and hopefully Cheryl will be able to do this video for us, members. Thank you. Turning back to the report, we have not received objections from consultees. In particular, conservation and amenity consultees have supported both applications, and I would refer members to comments from HES, Historic Environment Scotland, and the Theatres Trust at paragraphs 16 and 17 for the planning application and paragraphs 24 and 26 for the listed building application. In terms of representations that have been received, all points are summarised in the report at paragraph 29. Following the adoption of LDP2 on the 8th of April 24, the development plan for East Ayrshire now comprises the adopted East Ayrshire Local Development Plan of 2024 and National Planning Framework with associated supplementary guidance. The report before you at paragraph 38, refers to the primary considerations for both applications, and I'll quickly summarise these for you. In terms of the principle of the development, the edge of centre and highly accessible site and improved facilities and offer will fulfil development plan aims to improve the vitality and viability for town centres. It will seek to ensure the longevity of the palace as a modern and accessible venue. There will be greater operational efficiencies, and the fly tower rigging system aims to allow the venue to attract larger and better performances with improved theatre going experiences for visitors. The location and the works will will support the council's cultural Kilmarnock project, providing the first step as a catalyst for future improvements, whilst linking into the strategic town centre regeneration framework. In terms of the listed building impact, this is one of the most important and prominent cultural buildings in Kilmarnock. The works represent significant changes to the front and rear elevations, and there are reasons for this as detailed within your report. There are physical constraints with the site that have led to the proposal in front of you today, and due regard has been paid to development plan heritage policies, the National Historic Environment Policy of Scotland, and Historic Environment Scotland's Managing Change Guidance. The front design seeks to respect the rhythm and order of the facade, seeks to retain the original facade as much as possible internally at the foyer, and seeks to keep ornate features where possible and at upper floors. The extension to the front will remain subordinate in scale, and its size and scale is appropriate. The rear extension will replace less sensitive additions and will read as a cohesive solution with an appropriate design, scale and material being sensitive to the listed character. The fly tower mitigation has been accepted by the planning service, and it is noted as an essential requirement by the applicant. It is located towards the southern gable, and at roof level it is fairly substantial. There are mitigating circumstances. It is set back from the primary elevations and will not affect the importance of the Albert Tower. It is not an insurmountable issue as noted by Historic Environment Scotland and the Theatres Trust. The external and internal works are also noted in your report and are assessed against the listed character and special interest of the building. There are balanced arguments about stone cleaning and retaining cornice profiles that will not result in an adverse impact. In terms of placemaking, design and materials, the proposal satisfies the qualities of successful place with its central location and connections to the town centre and public transport nodes. It seeks to use external features that will complement natural stone but not comprise natural stone. There's a fabric first approach to ensure longevity. Members have had the opportunity to review materials on site and have seen the comparison to the natural sandstone, both in terms of colour and texture, and also the rear extension proposed brick. In terms of sustainability, the proposals will integrate low and zero carbon technologies, repairs and replacement of windows, doors and roofing materials to improve air tightness and energy efficiency and reduce operational emissions. The submitted technical guidance also indicates that the precast concrete panels, as proposed, can provide a high degree of energy efficiency. In terms of the remaining primary considerations, there are areas of soft landscaping proposed at the entrance and links to the surrounding network, with surveys confirmed there will be no impact on protected species. In terms of traffic, given the central location, there is a range of travel options, both public and private, and pedestrian access, and no objections from ARA as roads authority. In terms of residential amenity, the site is not in a primary residential area. Impacts on residential properties are not considered to be significant. Flood risk assessment has been undertaken and is to the satisfaction of ARA flooding and SEPA. Ground investigation reports also been undertaken with no issues identified, and a watching brief can be achieved for agricultural works. In conclusion, the proposals are considered to be largely supported by the policies of the development plan as set out in detail within the report. The principle of extending and adapting the building is supported, subject to the detail of the development being acceptable and sensitive to the character, appearance and historic interest of the building. An extension to the principal facades of an A-listed building requires to be of the highest standard, respecting the building and its fabric, whilst achieving the wider design goals of making the building fit for continued modern use. In this case, it is considered that the extension strikes an acceptable balance to allow for an extension that will not dominate the surroundings or the frontage and allows the building to remain its character and appearance. The extension to the lesser facades allow for a more consolidated appearance, and a significant body of detailed conservation work that is proposed will be carried out under the supervision of a conservation accredited architect and will address issues with the condition of the building, all of which seek to secure its long-term future. As I've said to you, we have no consultation responses where we have received objections, and the points made by objectors are noted, but they are not considered to raise any matter that would outweigh the approval of the applications. Proposed development will benefit the local community and bring economic benefit to the local area in creating jobs for local people and providing health and wellbeing and cultural facilities. Local people will benefit from the proposal to attract visitors and tourists to Kilmarnock Town Centre. It will reactivate the current frontage and safeguard the long-term future of the A-listed building. The planning application is therefore recommended for approval, subject to the conditions in Appendix 1 of your report, and the listed building application is therefore recommended for approval, subject to the conditions in Appendix 2 of your report. Just before I pass back to the Chair for members' consideration, I do have a couple of extra conditions that I would like to ask members to consider placing upon the decision if you're agreeable to grant consent today. One condition is for the planning application, is for a lay-by. Members will be aware from the site visit that the lay-by that is there for drop-off and pick-up on London Road is actually due to be removed to facilitate the extension. We would like to have a condition down there to state that within an appropriate time scale, there are alternative accessible drop-off and pick-up facility. Details are given to us for our approval and then therefore initiated on site. The second condition is for the planning application and for the listed building consent, and it relates to the public realm works to the front, the footpath to the retaining wall, planting, etc., street furniture. That is detailed in one of the plans that we showed you at the site visit, members. We would like to actually have a condition that says, notwithstanding that plan, the details aren't approved, and we'd like to have a further look at that. So I'd like to add that on in terms of surfacing, planting, street furniture, treatment to the retaining wall, details of soft landscaping and a maintenance scheme, and that would be for both the planning and the listed building, but the lay-by would be recommended for the planning application only. Back to yourself, Chair.
Thanks, Fiona. I think we all recognise the Palace Theatre and Grand Hall as an iconic building within Cultural Kilmarnock Town Centre. And it's been sitting there for 162 years almost. I think Chief Planning Officer's done the correct thing, bringing it before the committee for consideration, given that status. So I'd like to thank Panel for bringing that to the committee for consideration. So members, I'm going to open up for comments and questions. Councillor McGee.
I think, Chair, it has been there for over 160 years, but it's no there as it was when it was first built. It's been through different changes and extensions. And I think with the site visit yesterday, I think when we looked at the materials that are getting used, the materials aren't there to replace the existing materials, are there to complement what's already there. So, I mean, I thought that was very informative, the site visit, and I think this is just another part of the involvement of the building. Again, if we were to leave the building as it was, then it's no viable for what we want it today to attract people into Kilmarnock and to make full use of the theatre. And sometimes it's no possible to please everybody. But I think what we're trying to do here appears to be well within only the planning regulations that are put before us. And I think the architects that are involved in it appear to me anyway to have done a pretty fine job. And I think this is an acceptable development. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McGee. Councillor Cowan.
Thank you, Chair. I was actually going to ask for clarification on the drop-off point on London Road. So I'm supportive of the additional conditions that were described by Fiona, including the street furniture and landscape at a further date.
Yep, I agree. It was one of the things I was going to raise also on the site visit. Is it yesterday or Wednesday? All days are rolling into one. And that was one thing that was brought up, was the fact that lay-by is used, especially with people with disabilities, to get dropped off right at the doorstep. So I'm glad that that's a consideration going forward. I think, Councillor McGee, you've touched on a lot of things that I was actually going to raise. I mean, personally, I think it's an acceptable balance between keeping the historical iconic building structure there, but bring it into the 21st century that will attract larger scale productions to Kilmarnock, bring people to the town. So obviously the front foyer extensions obviously going to have the biggest visual impact, but like yourself, Councillor McGee, I was reassured with the materials that were on display, and it will complement the building, I think. And the fact that the design is incorporated, keeping the cornice, is very welcome. But I'll stop my comments there at the moment, because I know Councillor Maitland's want to come in.
Right, thank you. I'm looking for some more information, clarification in point 2. I'm not quite sure I understand it. Will the decision for soft landscaping come back to committee, or will it be decided off committee? Because it's quite an important finish to the whole project.
It would normally be a delegated decision to us, if that's acceptable. That's normally, in terms of the scheme of delegation, how we would run it. It's one that obviously we know there are significant issues on, and we know there's real detail that needs to be sorted out with that one. So it's one that we will pay particular attention to, but it would normally be done through delegated powers.
Councillor Maitland, just to give you some comfort, I think we've had some clear direction from members of what they want to see in terms of that area. And I suppose it's about a discussion to have with our colleagues in sort of ARA about what they're proposing in terms of the infinity loop. So we will be having those discussions to make sure that both the proposals at Palace Theatre and what comes forward in terms of the infinity loop are sort of integrated included, and we're just maximising, you know, the two proposals together.
I appreciate we're going to have to work in partnership with that, etc. I mean, we raised the ankle braking car parks across the road. I realise it's out with the scope of what we're asking for today, but it has to be joined up. I'm just a little bit uncomfortable about us not seeing the finished landscaping. I appreciate it's delegated, but I don't know how my colleagues feel. I think it's a rather important part of the whole planning application.
Through you, Chair, while obviously you've heard from the Chief Planner and Fiona about, you know, the considerations that officers will take into account if in the normal course of events it is delegated to them. But for the sake of completeness, you know, if members do feel that the discharge of that particular condition does require to come back before the committee, then that is something that obviously members can do, and it's something that has happened previously in relation to other applications, you know, in terms of how the discharge of the condition can take place. However, obviously, I'm conscious that the Chief Planner and Fiona have also tried to give some assurance on the issues that they would take into account, depending how members feel they want to deal with that in terms of who should discharge at any future condition, if members are ultimately minded to grant the application.
If it helps, Councillor Maitland, we could arrange a briefing session to inform members of the details that we get, if that would help at all. And something fairly informal, but obviously available for all members to attend. It's something we could take away.
Back in, Councillor.
So you, Chair, yeah, I think that would be acceptable. I don't know how my colleagues feel about this. I just think we've had so much discussion about raising levels, roads going both ways. So I can see it's a movable feast, what we're being asked to do, landscaping wise, because it's really not all set in stone or grass or concrete. But I really would appreciate a further briefing if my colleagues feel the same way. Thank you.
Can you bring in Councillor Lennox? Oh, we'll come back to that point.
Thanks, Chair. I'd just like to, you need to excuse me, I've got self-roted this morning. I'd like to agree with the sentiments expressed by the Deputy Provost in terms of things don't stand still. And I think we need to move forward, and the building through its history deserves the treatment it's getting. I think the proposed changes are sympathetic to both the building and that vicinity. So again, I'd be happy to support the officer's recommendations in that one. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Lennox. I'm going to bring in Councillor Cowan and then Councillor Linda Maben.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wanting to come in on Councillor Maitland's points, and I would be supportive of additional scrutiny on the landscape, and my preference would for it to be brought back to Planning Committee.
Thanks, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Maben.
Thank you, Chair. Just to echo Councillors Cowan and Maitland, I think it's a crucial part of how the finished, like, just how it's going to look to members of the public as well. And I would like just to see how the sort of final images look before any final decisions are taken. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Maben. I think, just to add my tuppence worth, I think I agree. I know the underpass is obviously going to, the plan is for it to get blocked off, and how this is going, the final look in the landscaping is going to be really important. And I think I would also move that it comes back to committee for discharge of that condition. If other members.
I suppose my main concern is, and I know that the project team is here, you know, timescale is of the essence for them on that, and Fiona's suggestion of a sort of briefing as a sort of halfway house, whereby we've had the briefing with members regarding the landscape. There is probably a lot of work to be done in this part of the scheme, especially working with ARA, and to make sure that the two are actually talking to each other and we're getting the maximum value out of both projects on that. So whilst it is a member's gift to bring it back to committee, you know, having a briefing may have the same effect, whereby we can discuss that in a more sort of informal context.
Can you bring in Councillor Watts then, Councillor McGee?
Thank you, Chair. I would say that because of the importance of this application and obviously the aesthetics and the way that it looks, I would obviously second you, Chair, in your proposal to bring the final proposals back to the committee to be signed off. I think it's far too important, to be honest. And whilst I have every confidence in our officers, I think we'll have started a process, and I think we need to finish that to make sure that we are happy as a committee that the overall view of this is exactly correct, and that we are happy with what goes and what moves forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Watts. Councillor McGee, I'll just bring in Richard Grievenson just for a minute and come back to you. Okay. Richard.
Good morning, members. Thank you, Chair. Just to add to the discussion, I'm very conscious that our colleagues are not with us today, and I had a conversation with Jane Corrie following the site visit we had with members earlier this week. Obviously, absolutely recognise the iconic building and the strategic nature of what's required, complementing all of the other projects that are happening in the town centre. We've got funding applications ready to be submitted to Sustrans in relation to Sturrock Street, and the two-way proposals together with the application for Active Travel Infrastructure Fund in terms of the Infinity Loop, again ready to go, and they are aligned with this project in terms of timescales. Given the conversations we had earlier this week, which were incredibly helpful, it would be my intention, members, with your support, to arrange a councillor conversation, a briefing on all of these key strategic projects, capital projects in regard to Kilmarnock Town Centre, because they are intrinsically linked in terms of the regeneration of Kilmarnock Town Centre as a whole. As I mentioned to you when we met, this is something Pamela and I are working collectively on, and with your blessing, as I say, early in the new year, it would be my intention to bring members together to discuss all of these projects, and obviously the landscaping at the front of this building is a critical part of that. So notwithstanding Craig's very helpful guidance, obviously in members' hands, and subject to, I guess, implications on timescales and the project itself, and that'd be something I'd be keen, if Simon is in the room, through you, Chair, to seek guidance of, just to make sure that the timescales would allow for the proposals as presented, but hopefully just to give members some further assurance in terms of that strategic thinking, bringing all of these projects together, and the landscaping of this building and the capital project in terms of the palace being an absolute integral part of that. I'll bring all of that back to members in the new year in the form of a briefing and a conversation. But through you, Chair, I wonder if Simon could give an update just in terms of timescales and implications. Thanks, members.
Thanks for that, Richard. Now, Craig, you want to come in as well? So I'll bring in Councillor, are you okay just to wait just a couple of minutes? So I'll bring in Craig, then Simon.
Chair, I'm not wanting to be difficult here. I'm just also conscious with my governance hat on for a minute. We seem to be deviating now considerably from the normal committee procedure here. But I suppose I am conscious the applicants are at the back of the room here, and I'm not necessarily wanting to set a precedent for future applications where there's no hearing procedure taking place. But I suppose I don't know if Simon is nodding his head or not to say whether or not there would be difficulties if the discharge of condition come back. I think he is indicating that there may be sort of time critical issues there, but I'm conscious, you know, that's maybe something members will have seen, given he's at the back of the room. But I'm conscious about, you know, the potential implications from just veering too far away from the hearing procedure, given the impact for other applications and other applicants, perhaps. You know, suggesting a different approach should be taken in future. But I do note that Simon was nodding his head, say there would be time pressures in any event for those who are in the chamber.
Okay, thanks, Craig. See, given that, I think members would be happy to take a 5-minute recess and have a conversation offline and then come back. Just a discussion of timescales. Councillor McGee.
Happy either way, Chair, if I could just come in. I hear Ken we're saying, Ken, we've got confidence in our officers, and then there's a big but at the end of it. So I'm quite happy that, I mean, I thought it was yesterday we had the site visit, but I'm hearing it was the day before, but it must be that time of year. But I thought the planning officer that was there, who's in the room, Fiona Finlay, kept his own point the other day, because we were discussing other things like road crossings, etc., that are important as we go forward in the future. But we were discussing the building, and I think the landscaping is very important. However, as a councillor, I'm not too precious that it actually needs to come back to committee. If we have the briefing, where I'm quite sure that the officers will not ignore the points that the councillors would be making if we're not happy with something. So I'm pretty happy with the suggestion of the officers and others that we have it in the form of a briefing, and I'm assured by that we'll be able to make our points known at that time. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McGee. I'm aware Councillor Lennox wanted to come in, and then I'll take Councillor Maitland.
Thanks, Chair. I would totally agree with Councillor McGee in terms of, I think we need to place our trust in council officers, and I'd be happy to support the Chief Planning Officer's recommendation about just coming back with a briefing. I think we've got enough information to deliberate in this one at the moment.
Yep, Councillor Maitland.
Apologies for starting all this. Actually, no, not apologies. That's not true. I was comfortable with a briefing. As I've listened to others, I'm not convinced I'm completely comfortable with a briefing. As if we can make changes and suggestions at the briefing, then I would feel much more comfortable. But we sit in this chamber making decisions on the final look of things, and this is an iconic building in the centre of town, and I can't just dismiss the landscaping as, yeah, it can be handed over. Sorry, I do have complete faith, but I would like to see the plans. So I would accept a briefing if it was acceptable to others. Thanks.
Okay, members, we'd be happy just to take a few minutes, and maybe we can get some timescales involved. And yep, yes, thanks. We just pause the recording for a few minutes, Jamie. Thanks.